Welcome to Cena Pro,
What? Come on! No.
Nice. Ready?
where we bring your favorite movies back to life with quick recaps, hidden details, and everything you missed. Our movie begins with Maceo, whose mother takes him to his new school. He feels nervous because he doesn't know anyone there, but his mother reassures him that he's special and will get used to it. When Maceo arrives at school, he looks for his class. When he gets there, a boy named Nick makes a comment about him. The teacher punishes Nick, and Maceo tries to tell her that they're friends, but the teacher insists on the punishment. After class, Nick comes out and thanks Maceo for helping him, and they become friends. Maceo goes home and asks his stepfather if he can hang something on the wall, and he allows him. Maceo hangs a picture, and we learn it's of his grandfather, his mother's father, who was a boxer and is now a referee. The next day, Nick and his classmate Ruby meet Maceo and become friends. Nick challenges Maceo to ask Teresa out. Maceo accepts the challenge and goes to her, but Teresa's boyfriend Hector shows up and hits him. He stops when he sees his coach, and Nick and Ruby are happy and take Maceo away. At night, Maceo's stepfather brings him a book about boxing, and Maceo is happy with it. The next day, Maceo walks while reading the book, but Hector and his friends come to bother him. But the janitor, whose name is Dan, comes and stops them. After Hector and his friends leave, Dan sees the book with Maceo and suggests he join the school boxing team. Maceo is happy to know he might be able to train in boxing because he loves it. He goes in and reads a flyer, but Hector comes and picks a fight with him. Nick tries to help Maceo, but everyone gets punished, and the teacher tells Maceo to avoid trouble. Maceo tries to explain that Hector started it. At home, his mother asks Maceo if he wants to talk about anything. Maceo says he wants to join the boxing team, but his mother gets worried and refuses. She says the school called and told her he got punished. Maceo says it wasn't his fault and goes to his room. His mother follows him and tries to convince him to give up the idea of boxing. When Maceo sees she's worried about him, he says he won't join. But the next day, we see Maceo going to training, happy. The coach says that the applicants for training must face the two who previously won the championship to be selected. One of the two is Hector, which worries Maceo, and he starts to leave, but Dan appears in front of him. Dan tells him he must face his fears, that all champions were like him, and encourages him. Maceo goes back, writes his name with the applicants, and each of them faces Hector and his teammate. When it's Maceo's turn, Hector says, whoever faces him, as soon as time starts, Hector punches Maceo's face until time is up. Hector stops, and Maceo hits him. Hector fights with him, but the coach stops them and expels Maceo from training. After training, Dan sits with Maceo and tells him he's brave because entering the ring requires courage and that he needs to take his time and calm down. Maceo asks him if he knows anything about boxing. Dan replies that he used to be a boxer and was qualified to enter the championship, but he was driving fast and the police caught him. Maceo asks if he thinks he could be a good boxer. Dan replies that he needs a lot of training, so Maceo loses hope because the coach expelled him and he won't get in the ring again. They get to know each other, and Maceo sees Dan's achievements and tells him he must have been excellent to win the cup. Dan says he's not upset. He was able to get married, have children, and earn money, but he still loves the sport. Maceo asks him if he can teach him a move, and Dan says he can teach him the straight punch and helps him stand and train properly. But the school bell rings, and Maceo asks to return to Dan later to learn boxing. He asks if he can come back after school. Dan agrees, and they make a plan. They start training, and Dan gives him his gloves, makes him take off his glasses, and starts his training. Maceo talks about his grandfather, and we learn Dan knows him and they were friends. After training, Dan goes running with him, and Maceo says his mother wants him to be a lawyer or doctor and hates boxing because she's afraid he'll be irresponsible and also because he had a serious illness as a child. But he recovered and is fine now. Dan agrees to train Maceo, but it must be a secret between them, and they agree on training days. On the other days, Maceo needs to run, which makes him happy, and he thanks Dan. Maceo changes his style of dress and convinces his mother to agree. When he goes to school, Hector keeps bothering him. Then Maceo goes for a walk with Ruby, who asks if he can see without his glasses. He says he needs them for long distances. Ruby asks if he wants to go shopping with her. He says yes, but he has another important errand. She asks if it's a secret. Maceo says he goes running for training because he started learning boxing. Ruby encourages him, and Maceo sees her drawing notebook and asks to look at it. He is impressed by her drawings and encourages her to continue. She shows him the drawing she made of him, which he likes. Afterwards, Maceo goes running, and after training with Dan, Dan tells him his performance is improving quickly for someone training for the first time. Dan has late-night work and suggests a friend's gym where Maceo can train. Maceo thanks him and asks to take the gloves home to train with them because the ones his grandfather gave him are torn. Dan agrees, but says no one should know he's training him. At school, Hector tells Maceo he liked the punch he gave him and that he told the coach to bring him back to the team because he's not satisfied with most of the others and that Maceo must be at the training place after school today. Maceo believes him and goes to the training place but doesn't find the coach. When he asks about him, they say he told them to start training until he arrives. They help him put on the gloves and helmet. Hector faces him and beats him up until Dan arrives and stops them. Hector speaks to Dan disrespectfully, so Dan grabs and restrains him. The coach arrives and sends Hector and his friends out. Dan helps Maceo up. Maceo returns home, hiding his face, and goes to his room. His mother follows him, and when she sees the bruise on his face, she gets worried and wants to call the school so Hector gets punished. But Maceo refuses and says he can handle it himself. She allows him to deal with the situation himself. His stepfather supports his decision, so his mother agrees, and Maceo is happy. The coach goes to talk to Dan and says having Maceo in the gym wasn't appropriate, and that he spoke to Hector and he'll apologize. He also warns Dan not to interact with the boy again. Dan tells him the boy's name is Maceo, and that Hector only got a warning even though he knows he should be punished. The coach says Hector is a strong boxer and wins the school championships. Hector has talent, unlike Maceo. That's why Hector will continue, and his end won't be like Maceo's. Dan replies that he understands what was said about him, because when they were competing, he put his pride before his love for the sport. The coach laughs because Dan left the sport due to his injury, and the coach thinks he is better off out of the ring. But Hector has all the advantages. Dan replies that Maceo is much better than Hector, and he can prove it, making a deal. Maceo will enter the ring with Hector in the presence of the coach, and Dan himself will fight him. If the coach refuses, Dan will go to the principal and show her the bruise on Maceo's face. The coach says that if Maceo enters the ring, he will get hurt, but Dan replies that he believes in him. The coach agrees, but on the condition that Maceo brings his parents' signed approval. Dan goes to the library and finds Maceo sitting and reading there. He asks him if he is not going to training, and says that everyone must lose at some point, and every champion has lost at some time, but what matters is getting back up after falling. Maceo replies that he is reflecting on himself and seeing if he has the skill or not. Dan says that everyone must face their fears because the only thing stopping them is themselves, and that every championship is different, but he is the only one who can determine his victory or defeat. Then he asks if Maceo will train or not, as he has a championship soon. Maceo is surprised. Dan replies that every trainee has the right to face Hector, and he will enter the ring with him. If he wins, he will continue training with the team. Maceo asks what happens if he loses, and Dan says that at least he will have given his all. Maceo gets worried, gathers his things, and follows him. They start training, and Maceo is fast. He realizes that Dan is still running as he always knew him. Dan says he needs to be faster to use all his time to hit Hector, but Maceo is hesitant and asks Dan if he can win. Dan replies that it's boxing and anything is possible, and that he talked to his friend and got permission for them to train in his gym. But to take him, he needs his parents to sign the approval papers. Dan adds that he can talk to them if Maceo wants, but Maceo refuses and says he will talk to them himself and thanks him before leaving. At home, Maceo refuses to tell his parents and forges his mother's signature on the papers. Maceo goes with Dan to the training place, and Dan starts preparing him and giving him advice, telling him he must be calm during the fight and not worry about how his opponent plays. All he needs to focus on is how to fight. Maceo enters the ring and starts fighting with one of those present, but he is afraid and uses a defensive stance. Dan stops the fight and talks to Maceo, saying he needs to attack from time to time and keep his hands up. The match starts again, and Dan keeps guiding him until Maceo manages to become an attacker and defeats his opponent before time runs out. Maceo continues training, running, and practicing with himself and with Dan. After training, Maceo asks if he can reach Hector's skill level since Hector is the school champion and he needs to be equal to him. Dan replies that he doesn't have to be at the same skill and strength as Hector to beat him. He shows him a picture of himself with the school team coach, saying they were in a competition and the coach won the trophy. But Dan considers himself the winner of the championship. Many people say he is the winner, but the judges have another opinion. We go to Masao and his family as they arrive home, and Ruby is there to go out with him. The next day at school, Masao walks with Ruby, and Hector comes over and keeps bothering them. Masao tries to take Ruby and leave, but Hector stops them, saying Masao is crazy for competing against him, and if he wins, he will join the team. Ruby replies that Masao will definitely win and beat him in front of everyone. When Hector tries to scare Masao, Masao fights back, but Hector beats him in front of everyone. Masao meets Nico. Nico finds out Masao went out with Ruby, and when Ruby comes and finds out Masao told Nico about their relationship, she gets upset and leaves. But Nico stops Masao from going after her. In class, the students finish their assignments and leave. The teacher tells Masao he has missed many lessons and has a lot of overdue homework, which he must submit as soon as possible to get grades and pass. Masao says he has time and can finish everything required now. The teacher laughs and gives it to him, but is surprised to see Masao solving it quickly and easily. Later, Masao is in the cafeteria and sees Ruby, who ignores him and leaves. When Masao goes to the training place, he doesn't find Dan there, so he trains on his own and doesn't worry about it. When he returns home, he finds the principal there, and his mother has found out he has been boxing without her permission. Also, the person training him is actually the janitor. Masao replies that his name is Dan and he was just teaching him some moves. His stepfather says that Masao's mother talked to him about this and her feelings were clear, but Masao embarrasses him and says he is not his father to interfere. The stepfather says that his name is on the papers the principal brought. The principal says the coach asked Masao to get his parents' signature, but there are many kids at the school and they can't expect which of them might do such a thing. Now, he is going to be expelled, but Masao gets upset. He says it was his mistake, and Dan was helping him without knowing what he did. He asks them not to punish Dan for his own mistake because Dan was defending him. He adds that if they don't bring Dan back, he will leave school and never return. His mother gets upset and argues with Masao, who insists on his decision, saying he believes in himself and that Dan was the only one who encouraged and stood by him and is his only friend who believed in his abilities. His stepfather replies that he and his mother also believe in his skills, but Masao says she is always afraid he will get hurt and doesn't believe in him. His stepfather says he talked to his mother and they agreed to let him play in the qualifiers, and Dan will be responsible for his training. But the principal refuses because it's not his job, and she already fired him. Masao gets upset and says Dan is a better coach than the school coach and did nothing wrong, nor did he go beyond his job, and then he leaves. He goes to get Dan's address, visits him, and apologizes for getting him fired and for forging his parents' signature, saying he can't return to school without him. Dan says life doesn't stop for him and will go on without him. Masao apologizes for making him lose his job. Dan replies that he agreed to train him on the condition that he gets his parents' approval, and that was their agreement. Masao apologizes again. Dan asks if he is ready for the championship. Masao replies that he won't be ready without him, and that he also won't be there with him. Dan says he won't be with him in the ring, and that Masao will be alone and needs to rely on himself, as Dan's role was only to guide him, but the one who will fight in the match is Masao alone. Masao says he is afraid, but Dan replies that Hector wants him to be afraid, but he will enter the ring and face him. As for whether he wins or loses, just by entering the ring, he is a winner because he is facing his fear. Masao asks Dan if he thinks he will win against Hector. Dan replies that it doesn't matter. What's important is whether Masao believes in himself and thinks he will win or not. Masao's mother wakes up and prepares breakfast for them, worried about him. But Masao reassures her that everything will be fine and goes out for a run. After training, Masao goes to school and meets Nick and Ruby. They tell him that today is the day of the match and ask if he's ready. Then Nick leaves, leaving Ruby with him, and Masao apologizes to her. Ruby encourages him and shows him a picture she drew of him as a winner. He tells her he imagined himself like that. Ruby adds that she's still going to add Hector lying on the ground in the drawing. Masao tells her that he's happy with it as it is. Ruby cheers him on, then says goodbye and leaves. Masao goes to get ready for the match, and Hector and his friend come to bother him, thinking he's scared. But Masao challenges them and says he will beat Hector. Hector tells him they'll meet in the ring and leaves. Masao is surprised to see Dan, who tells him he's nervous. Dan says it's normal to be nervous, and Hector is nervous too. He just needs to try to block his attacks and beat him. The coach starts explaining the competition to the audience, saying that the previous year's school champions will face the new players. Each match consists of 3 rounds, each lasting 3 minutes. We see Masao's grandfather coming to watch the match, surprising his mother, who realizes her husband invited him. The students start facing off, and one of the new students defeats Victor's friend, who had won previous championships. Maceo is surprised and happy, recalling Dan's words that everyone is afraid, but it's about how you control your fear. The coach asks Maceo if he's ready, and Maceo enters the ring for his turn. He stands in the ring, remembering Dan's words that he's fighting his fear no matter the result. The coach gives instructions, and everyone returns to their corner. Maceo remembers when Dan told him that Hector wants him to feel afraid, so he shouldn't give in. The first round begins, and Maceo manages to defend and attack. But when time is almost up, Hector hits him in the face. Hector goes to rest, and the coach warns him not to break the rules. When Maceo goes to rest, he finds his grandfather beside him, encouraging him. He tells him he needs to throw punches. Maceo replies that he's dodging the punches and that Hector takes a break after every 6 punches, and at that moment he can hit him. His grandfather tells him that's a good observation, but he needs to keep his guard up and that he did well in that round. The second round begins, and Maceo attacks at first, but Hector manages to dominate the round and hits him hard. The second round ends, and Dan gets worried and goes to Maceo, telling him to aim for Hector's ribs, as Hector is tired and Maceo should use all his strength. The third round starts. Hector is attacking, but Maceo begins to focus. With one move, he knocks Hector down. Hector gets up and Maceo goes on the offensive, remembering Dan's words that this is his chance to show everyone, including Dan. He lands a punch on Hector's ribs and finishes with a punch to his face before time runs out. The match ends. Everyone cheers and encourages Maceo. Dan comes out and lifts him up, happy with him. The coach tells Hector to go and treat Maceo properly. Hector goes to Maceo and tells him it was a good match and his punches were strong. The judges tally the results, and the winner is Hector because he won 2 rounds. Maceo is upset that he lost, but Dan tells him it's enough that he won the last round, and his grandfather tells him he is the winner in his eyes. The coach tells the audience that Maceo will join the school's reserve team because Hector will graduate, and they need someone to win championships for the school after him. Maceo thanks the coach, his family, friends, grandfather, and Dan. Then he goes to say goodbye to Dan as he's leaving. Maceo gathers with his family to take a group photo, happy. And here our summary ends for today. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell